Welcome back, everybody. This Week in America on the Blue Funk Broadcasting Radio Network. Great to have you with us on the program today. As mentioned, our guest on the program is Christy Demetrakis. She's the author of Faith to Conquer Fear, Inspiration to Achieve Your Dreams. She's a trainer, coach, president of the Empowered Speaker. Christy, welcome to This Week in America. Great to have you with us on the program.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
There are so many interesting things to talk about, and I want to go back and take two things in your career because they're interesting. After you get out of college, you realize, I enjoy public speaking. I'll come back to that in a second because a lot of people go, I don't really enjoy that. I want to find out why you did, why you enjoyed it. And then it took you 13 years to get over that sort of trepidation to actually go out and start your own company, being a public speaker and coaching people. And I'll go back to point number one. A lot of people will do anything other than public speak. You enjoy that. What is it about public speaking that you enjoy and you're very good at?
You know what? I love it, and I've always loved it. And I think it's one of those things that goes back to the way I grew up in the AME church. I grew up in the church. We used to always do something that I think churches really should do now, which is you'd have your children recite a poem, or you always had that Easter program or that Christmas program that you had to participate in because Mama said you had to participate. And so that helps a lot of people to get over their fear of public speaking. And so I often enjoyed that. And even in college, I started, and I talk about this in the book, I started my career in college, or my studies in college, thinking I was going to be pre-med. I wanted to be a doctor. And then I met a few science courses that told me otherwise. But what I also knew all that time, and what I was doing on the side, per se, is I was coaching other people, other college students, to make great presentations in their drama classes. And those things just come easy to me. So it's always been easy for me to coach, and I've always been very comfortable standing in front of people and speaking. So for me, it's not necessarily a choice. I'm just doing something that I've just always had in me.
You know, fear is something that limits so much of our potential, and we'll talk about that during the course of the program. And Christy's book is Faith to Conquer Fear, Inspiration to Achieve Your Dreams. Book's available, by the way, in hardcover, softcover, ebook at Amazon, BarnesandNoble.com. And our website, empoweredspeaker.com. You can get a signed copy of the book, and you can sign up for the newsletter and all sorts of information from Christy. But all of us are sort of held back by fear, especially with public speaking. You overcame that at an early age. If somebody is still fearful of public speaking and they find that because of their job or church-related activities, social activities, they need to public speak, a couple tips on how we can get over that basic fear, because we sort of talk ourselves into fearing public speaking.
We do, and you're indeed right. I mean, if you look at some surveys that have been done over the years, fear is indeed the number one, or at least very close to the top of, most people's phobias, even above death, which is really scary, right? You'd rather die than stand in front of a group of people. That's pretty impressive. But for people who really need to overcome that fear, the first thing you have to do is you actually have to get up in front of people. Okay, so there's a lot of tips I could tell you, once you get up there. But the first step of overcoming any type of fear is to actually do it. And so you have to put yourself out there to say, you know what, this is something I realize I'm going to have to do, and I want to learn how to do it. Now, there's the putting yourself out there and doing it on the fly, or you could be prepared for those opportunities by taking on a speech coach, taking a speech class, joining Toastmasters. All those types of things give you that experience in a very safe environment that allows you to kind of build those skill sets before you really have to jump off the deep end. So that's what I always tell people is think about what it is you might have to do. If you're joining the PTA and you're going to be the president, you might want to be able to speak, right?
Yes.
So it doesn't hurt to take a few public speaking classes or courses to get you ready for that so that you're not so afraid when the time comes.
Well, and so you make an interesting point, because so often we think of public speaking as getting up in front of 500 people. Public speaking can be, as you say, speaking in front of 12 people at a committee meeting, a PTA, or even going back into a department store when you're taking an item back to get a refund because there's a flaw or whatever. You're public speaking at that point. And again, almost like an elevator speech that you talk about, your first 30 seconds are key as to whether or not this person is going to respond to you in a positive way.
Exactly. And this is what I also tell people. Public speaking, anytime that there is a message, and this is exactly what you're saying, Rick, anytime there's a message you want to convey, and you need to convey it to a person or a group of people, you are presenting. You are leveraging your public speaking skills. And so you do have to think those things through. And a lot of people make the mistake of saying, no, I can talk, so it's no problem for me to stand up in front of a group of people. But you and I both know that the dynamics completely change when you and I are having a conversation versus now you've told me to go stand in front of 500 people and tell them the same thing I just told like one-on-one.
You're
So
listening. I'm just saying you're listening to This Week in America. Our guest on the program is Christy Demetrakis. Her website is empoweredspeaker.com. Her book is called Faith to Conquer Fear, Inspiration to Achieve Your Dreams. And you were talking about working with a coach. If you go to Christy's website, Christy has spent a number of years working for Fortune 500 companies. She consults now. She does one-on-one coaching, a lot of tips that you'll find on the website as well. So it's a great place to go to get some information. And Christy is a great resource if your company is looking for somebody or if you're just looking for somebody to work with you to make you better. Because as I say, she does some one-on-ones. The big question is rehearse or not rehearse?
That is the question. You should always rehearse. Doesn't matter what it is you're planning to do. You should always rehearse. Preparation is key. And most of fear comes from the fact that you're not prepared. People either aren't organized or I don't feel like I know it well enough or they're not going to believe me, whatever. At the end of the day, if you have taken the time to write out your thoughts, really think through your thoughts, and you've practiced it, and I always tell people 6 times, and they go, 6 times? Are you kidding me? I have to practice something 6 times? Yes, you need to practice 6 times, and here's why. The first 2 times, you're actually putting together what it is you want to say, and you're running through the bugs of it. Oh, it didn't sound the same way when I actually wrote it out. The next 2 times is spent getting really familiar with what it is that you've written, okay? The last 2 times is where you're focused on the nonverbals. So now that you know exactly what you're going to say, now you're focused on the delivery of it. How am I actually going to deliver it? Where do I want to be standing? What do I want my hands to do? These things that weigh 200 pounds once you stand in front of a group of people. What do I want my hands to do? So that's why I encourage people, yes, you absolutely need to rehearse, because when you stand in front of a group of people, the automatic assumption is that you are an expert and that you are credible.
Once I'm standing in...
I'm sorry?
Well, when you're standing in front of the people, do you, at that point, read everything that you've written down or work off an outline?
No, no. And there's different styles for different people, right? Because obviously if you're the president, you have a teleprompter.
Yes.
But
yes.
Even the president is he's familiar enough with it that he doesn't have to read it, right? So you can see him go off script, look to the left, look to the right. Some people memorize. I like to memorize. That's just my style. Doesn't work for everybody. But I get comfortable enough with it so that I'm also a very visual person. So I can, if I get stuck, I know where on the page what it is I had meant to say is written. So that helps me because I'm a visual person. But if you're not that type of person, note cards for sure, but not note cards that include your entire speech written out. It's just your bullet points or some key statistics or things that you know you want to make sure you don't forget.
You're listening to This Week in America. Our website, thisweekinamerica.us. You can log on, get all sorts of information on our guest and a link onto her website. Our guest is Christy Demetrakis. She's the author of the book, Faith to Conquer Fear, Inspiration to Achieve Your Dreams. Her website is empoweredspeaker.com. Books available hardcover, softcover, ebook at Amazon, Barnes & Noble. A signed copy by going to her website. She'll be happy to do that for you. We're talking about speeches, and we think the book just deals with public speaking. That's really not the case. Part 2 of what we talked about in the beginning was after Christy decided, I really like public speaking. It took a while to get over that I think that anxiety all of us have when we decide we want to really do something new and go out on our own. After 13 years, why did you, at what point, what made you decide, I'm going to do it. I'm going to be a public speaker. I am going to coach other people, and I'm going to make a living doing this?
You know, it's funny because when you come out of school, and you and I were talking about this a little bit before, when you come out of school or when you're in school, you have these grand aspirations of making lots of money and, you know, impacting the world. And well, I was more thinking making lots of money. I wasn't thinking about impacting the world, I'm afraid to say. But when I came out, I actually intended to be someone's on somebody's television program or news show. And once I figured out how little money they paid, as a reporter, I said, this is not for me. And so I ended up starting to work in corporate America. And if you've ever had a job or know anybody who has a job in corporate America, the salary is not bad. And the longer you stay there, the better your salary gets.
Yes.
And so it becomes harder and harder, especially once you throw in all of life. You got married, you have children, You throw in life, mix that in with I've got this great job, it becomes very scary to say, I'm going to walk away from this and go off and do what it is I'm really passionate about. And so I used to have a conversation with my mom, gosh, weekly. I say, you know what, Mom, I just don't want to wake up one day and realize I've never tried to do anything. I've never tried to do this. I at least want to have the opportunity to fail at it. And so I joined Toastmasters because I said, you know, I do love to speak, so let me just at least keep my skills fresh. Joined Toastmasters, and one day I was looking through a magazine, and there was a lady who was offering a speakers training camp certification program. And it was exactly what I was looking for, because one of the things that was also holding me back was I know how to do this. I know how to coach people. I've been doing it informally for years, but I didn't want to take the time to create all the materials to teach a class, to create a seminar. And her program provided me just that. And so I went, I spent a couple of days with her, got certified to be a speakers training camp instructor, had all the material, and that was really the push that I needed to make me, you know, take that next step. Now, here's what I will say, Rick. I didn't leave corporate America. I'm still in corporate America right now. And I think that's something that's really important for people to understand. It doesn't have to be all or nothing at the beginning. Some things take time. There's nothing that says if you have a passion and a dream that you've got to give up everything that you know, all your creature comforts to accomplish that thing. Sometimes it can happen in steps. Sometimes people always do two separate things. They work in corporate America and they do their passion on the side.
Well,
and
something you emphasize in the book, Faith to Conquer Fear, Inspiration to Achieve Your Dreams, and it's the first word there, and you've got a great quote. The book is filled with inspirational quotes from famous people, biblical references. Faith is taking the first step even when you don't see the whole staircase, Martin Luther King Jr. That is so, that faith, and like I said, it's the first word that you've got in the title of your book, and that's probably the first thing we have to come into place for us before we actually make that move, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that's a piece of it. The way I've laid the book out is I've laid the book out in 12 chapters, and actually the first chapter is inspiration. And as I think about how I designed the book and why I laid it out that way, I laid the chapter out in such a way that those are the steps that I believe it takes you to get to the success of achieving a dream. And so in my mind, yes, faith is a huge component, and that will be what kickstarts you as well as sustains you. But I believe that it first starts with inspiration. At some point, there's something that happened to you. You read something, you heard somebody that sparked something in you that says, you know what, I can do this too. I see him do it, or I see her do it. I can do this thing. Oh, I've been thinking about that. Or you read something about some new product that someone invented, which sparks, brings to memory that thing that you thought about 2 years ago that would be a great idea. So I think it starts with inspiration, and then indeed faith absolutely kicks in for you.
One of the components you also talk about, we've got a couple minutes left in the program, time going way too quickly. It's an excellent book, and we'll have Christy back on other programs. Attitude, a great quote with Michael Jordan, who, as legend has it, I think it's true, was cut from his high school basketball team. What if I fail is what you're talking about it with attitude. And he says, I can accept failure. I can't accept not trying. And you alluded to that when you were talking with your mother, that I don't want to go through life with the regret that what if.
Yep. That's it. And that's I think people have to get beyond that, because what's the worst that can happen? Really, what's the worst that can happen? And I also talk about, there's fear of success and there's fear of failure and there's fear of success. And so people have to really identify and take the time, and I have an exercise in the book, but take the time to really identify what is that thing that is really keeping you from moving forward. Because it may not be what you think. It may not be what you think.
Got about a minute left. The book is Faith to Conquer Fear, Inspiration to Achieve Your Dreams. Christy Demetrakis has been our guest on the program. Her website is empoweredspeaker.com. You can link onto our website, thisweekinamerica.us, and get all the information. In 30 seconds, a great chapter in the book, a section of the book, you talk about the good life, and most of us think that's when we were childhood and we're adults and that's not going to happen anymore. And you say, really don't think the good life is over when childhood ends. The good life can continue for all of us.
Absolutely. The good life is what you make it, and it's those things that are important to you. It's not how man defines success. It's not how man defines what the good life should be. It's what's important to you.
Well, let's talk about how Oprah defines success, again in the book, Faith to Conquer Fear. She says, you know, you are on the road to success if you would be willing to do your job and not be paid for it. Ladies and gentlemen, I am successful. I just want to get that in there. If that's the definition, I am successful. You look up success in the dictionary, you'll see a picture of me there. It's an excellent book, Faith to Conquer Fear. Our guest has been Christy Demetrakis. EmpoweredSpeaker.com is her website. A lot of great information in the book, and we'll have Christy back with us on the program. Christy, thank you so much for sharing with us. Look forward to having you back. And if you're looking for, again, information, you can sign up for the newsletter. If your company or you're just looking to get a step up in trying to be a better communicator, and we all should have that as a goal, you'll find information at EmpoweredSpeaker.com. Christy, thank you for joining us. A pleasure.
Thank you so much.
You're listening to This Week in America on the Blue Funk Broadcasting Radio Network.